Sometimes life shows no mercy. It hits you in unexpected ways, traps you, shakes you, drags you down to the deepest depths. It's tough, I know. And the worst part? When every day feels the same. My friend, it's time to face the truth. Emotional strength isn't a gift. It's something you train, something you build every single day. How much longer will you let fear, doubt, and drama run your life? Most people are slaves to their minds, reacting without control, suffering the same pain over and over again. But you know what? There's another way to live. One where you're in charge, not your runaway emotions. The Stoics knew this, and for centuries, they refined principles that turned the greatest leaders and thinkers into unshakable individuals. And the best part? You don't have to be an ancient Roman philosopher to achieve it. Of course not. Today, I'll reveal 10 Stoic habits that will give you absolute control over your mind and emotions. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by challenges, like there was no point in fighting anymore, stay with me, because after this video, you won't be the same person. Let's get to it. But first, let me tell you a story that will help you understand that true strength isn't found in muscles or in the absence of problems, but in how you choose to face them. This is the story of Julian, a young climber obsessed with conquering the highest mountain in his country. Since he was a child, he dreamed of reaching the summit, of looking at the world from above, of proving that nothing and no one could stop him. He spent his life training relentlessly. Known for his extraordinary endurance, he could withstand freezing temperatures without hesitation. His strength allowed him to climb near impossible walls, and his technique made him one of the most precise and meticulous climbers. Nothing escaped him. He was prepared for any storm, any physical obstacle. But there was one thing he had never trained for: the fear of falling. When the big day finally arrived, the weather was perfect. The cold air filled his lungs, the sun illuminated the peak, and with every step he felt invincible. He moved with skill. Every grip was firm, every movement calculated. Julian was in his element. This was his moment. But then, without warning, the mountain decided to test him. The clouds thickened. A freezing wind lashed his face. First, a light drizzle, then snow, and within minutes, the storm had completely surrounded him. Visibility was gone. His fingers, used to gripping solid rock, now slipped against the treacherous wet surface. Every step became more uncertain. And then, it happened. He found himself trapped on a narrow ledge, with a deep abyss to his right and an icy wall impossible to climb to his left. He couldn't move forward. He couldn't go back, and the storm only grew stronger. Panic took over. His breathing quickened. His legs, once as strong as steel, now trembled. His mind, once sharp and disciplined, could only repeat the same thoughts over and over. I can't do this. This is too much for me. I'm going to fall. This is the end. And for the first time in his life, his body refused to respond. Then, as if by magic, an old man appeared. Yes, an old man in the middle of the storm, on that massive mountain. I must be hallucinating, Julian thought. But no, it was Gabriel, a mountaineer who had spent decades challenging peaks. He walked with steady steps as if the storm didn't exist. Calmly, he reached Julian and said, "It's not the mountain that's defeating you. It's you." Paralyzed, Julian barely managed to whisper, "I can't go on. I can't even move." The old man looked at him with serenity and asked, "How long have you been climbing?" "Since I was a child," Julian answered, his voice shaking. "Then tell me, how many times have you fallen and gotten back up?" Julian didn't respond. He knew the answer. He had fallen hundreds of times during training. He had scraped himself, bruised himself, even broken bones, and he had always kept going. But this time was different. "I don't know. This is different here. There's no safety net, no second chances." The old man smiled and replied, "That has always been an illusion. The only safety net you have is your mind. And right now, you've let it go." Julian looked at him desperately. "But how? How do I move when my body is frozen with fear?" The old man sat beside him, unhurried, as if they weren't in the middle of a deadly storm. Start with just one movement, just one. Don't think about the next step or the summit or the fall. Just move one hand. Julian hesitated, but the fear of staying there consumed him more than the fear of moving. He took a deep breath, and with an effort that wasn't physical but mental, he lifted one hand and placed it on the rock, then the other, one foot, then the other. And just like that, step by step, he kept climbing until hours later he reached the summit. But as he stood atop the peak and looked at the infinite horizon, he felt something greater than victory. He realized that what he had truly conquered was not the mountain, but himself. All this time, he had believed that success was about strength, technique, and physical preparation. But now he knew that none of that mattered if his mind wasn't strong enough to hold him up in moments of chaos. That day, Julian descended the mountain with an unshakable certainty. He wasn't just a better climber, he was a stronger person. Because true strength isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward despite it. And now I ask you, how many times have you let fear stop you? How many times have you listened to that voice telling you that you can't, that you're not capable, that you're not strong enough? Today, you'll learn how the Stoics forged an unbreakable mindset, how they trained their minds to resist doubt, fear, and self-pity. Because the real battle isn't against the world, it's against yourself. My friend, stay with me until the end, and I'll show you the habits that turned the Stoics into human beings with indestructible emotional strength. Let's begin. Before we continue, if this content is helping you strengthen your mind, consider subscribing and becoming an exclusive member for unique benefits. And tell us in the comments, what has been the mountain that has paralyzed you in life? Or simply write, I am Stoic. I can handle anything. We want to grow together with you. 1. Be the master of your thoughts. If you don't control your mind will control you. It's that simple. Imagine your mind as a wild horse. If you don't take the reins, it will drag you wherever it wants, without control, without direction. But if you learn to tame it, if you learn to guide it, that same horse will take you exactly where you want to go. That is the difference between being a slave to your thoughts or their master. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Epictetus made it clear when he said, "We are not disturbed by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens to us." Think about it. It's not the difficulty itself that destroys you. It never has been. It's the story you tell yourself about it. It's not the mistake that brings you down, it's the thought, "I'm a failure." It's not rejection that hurts, it's the idea that I'm not enough. How many times have you let a thought sabotage you? Think about that moment when you were fully prepared to speak in public, but your mind convinced you you'd make a fool of yourself. Or that time when you were about to send that important message, but your head filled with doubt, and you ended up deleting it. How many opportunities have you let slip away just because your mind convinced you that you weren't capable? Maybe out of fear of failure, embarrassment, or worrying about what others might think. How sad it is to dream of trying something new and never daring to do it because your mind deceives you, telling you that you won't make it. I'm sure you've heard this voice inside you. But what if it goes wrong? And I'm sure you never dared to answer, "If it goes wrong, I'll learn." Because that voice that tells you you can't, that you're not enough, that something is impossible, is not an absolute truth. It's just a thought, a perception, a mental habit you've repeated so many times that now it sounds real. But tell me, is everything you think actually true? Of course not. As the Stoics used to say, it's just an opinion of reality. Imagine you receive a message from someone important to you, and you notice their tone is cold or distant. Immediately, your mind starts creating stories. Did I do something wrong? They must be mad at me. Something's changed. They don't care about me anymore. Suddenly, you spend the whole day anxious, questioning yourself, feeling rejected, when in reality, that person was simply busy or distracted. See what happened? Reality didn't change. Only the story your mind created about it did. This is how most people live, not reacting to reality, but to the story their mind tells them about reality. But now tell me, What would happen if, instead of assuming the worst, you chose to assume the best? What if, instead of being a slave to your thoughts, you use them to your advantage? Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, put it plainly: your mind will be like you shape it. If distress harms you, it is because you have allowed it to harm you. Because your mind is not your enemy, unless you allow it to be. And don't get me wrong, controlling your thoughts doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing the interpretation that strengthens you instead of the one that weakens you. Imagine you're facing a big challenge. You have two options. You can think, "This is too hard. I won't be able to do it." Or you can say to yourself, "This is a challenge. I'll find a way." Which of these two attitudes will take you further? The answer is obvious. My friend, you can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose what you think about it. The next time a negative thought appears, don't accept it right away. Ask yourself, does this help me or hold me back? If it doesn't help, replace it. Instead of, "I'm a failure," think, "I'm learning." Instead of, "I'll never make it," think, "Not yet, but I'll keep going." Remember, your thoughts are not the truth, they are just ideas. The Stoics understood this well. They knew that true emotional strength doesn't come from the absence of problems, but from the ability to master your own mind. And here's the big question. If you're not the master of your thoughts, how do you expect to be the master of your life? 2. Do not fight against what you cannot change. Imagine you're in the middle of the ocean, caught in a raging storm. The waves crash against you with fury. The wind pushes you in every direction, and you, desperate, try to swim against the current. But the harder you fight, the more exhausted you become, the farther you drift from the shore. Every stroke is a losing battle. Sounds terrifying, doesn't it? Now imagine that instead of fighting against the water, you simply decide to float. Instead of resisting the storm, you learn to move with it, to let it carry you until the calm returns. I know it's tempting to try to swim against the current, but do you really think you're stronger than Mother Nature? This is the key to emotional strength. Life is not about controlling the storm, but about learning how to navigate it. We have a natural tendency to want to control everything. But here's the truth. There are things that are simply beyond our hands. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Epictetus put it with brutal clarity. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. And modern psychologists have reached the same conclusion. Stephen Hayes, creator of acceptance and commitment therapy, explains it this way. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional if we learn to stop fighting what we cannot control. Because what you resist persists. The more you refuse to accept what is already reality, the more power you give it over you. Think about it. How many times have you suffered more from resisting than from the actual situation? You lost your job, and instead of looking for new opportunities, you spent weeks asking, "Why me?" Someone let you down, and instead of accepting it, you exhausted yourself waiting for them to apologize and make things right. And the worst part? Every time something doesn't go as expected, you get stuck in frustration, as if that could change the past. Be honest with yourself. Has that internal struggle ever helped you? Has it changed reality in the slightest? I bet it hasn't. So, my friend, it's time to accept reality, let go, and flow with it. And no, acceptance does not mean giving up. It's not about settling. It's about consciously choosing where your energy is worth investing. Imagine being stuck in traffic. You can hit the steering wheel, curse at other drivers, stress out because you're running late. Or you can breathe, accept that you can't change the situation, and use the time to listen to an audiobook, reflect, or simply enjoy the sunlight streaming through the window. The first option fills you with frustration. The second fills you with peace. And the funny thing? In both cases, the traffic remains exactly the same. The difference is in how you choose to face it. The Stoics called this amor fati, the love of fate. Not resisting life, but embracing it as it is. Not with resignation, but with wisdom. Because, as Byron Katie wisely said, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. Do you want to know how to break that nasty habit of fighting against everything that's out of your control? When something doesn't go as expected, instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What can I do with this?" If you catch yourself mentally struggling with something you can't change, stop and ask, "Does fighting this actually help? Or is it better to adapt?" Breathe. Let go of the resistance and focus your energy on what you can control. And finally, when faced with difficulty, look at it straight on and say, "This is what it is. Now what's next?" Because the one who fights against what they cannot change always loses. But the one who accepts, adapts, and moves forward becomes unstoppable. And here's the truth. Every single thing you cannot change is an opportunity to prove your true strength. You cannot stop the storm, but you can learn to navigate it. You cannot make the wind blow in your favor, but you can adjust your sails. You cannot choose what happens to you, but you can choose who you are in the face of it. Don't waste your strength pushing against walls that will never move. Use that strength to build a new path. 3. The art of cooling your emotions. Emotions are like fire. When controlled, they provide warmth, direction, and energy. But if you let them run wild, they consume you completely. They reduce you to ashes. Think about it. How many times has an outburst of anger made you say something you later regretted? How many times has fear paralyzed you before you even tried? How many times has pain made you see life as worse than it really is? Seneca taught us that anger, if not restrained, is more harmful to us than the injury that provokes it. But don't worry, I have the key: cooling your emotions. And no, this doesn't mean repressing them. It's not about becoming a stone with no feelings. It's about being the one who decides how and when to react, instead of being a slave to momentary impulses. How many opportunities have been destroyed because of an impulsive reaction? How many relationships have ended because of an argument where things were said that should never have been said? What a shame, right? So many lives ruined by a moment of rage, by an impulse. Here's an example from modern life. You receive a short, cold message. Your mind immediately tells you, "They're mad at me." Without thinking, you reply with sarcasm. And guess what? The other person is now on the defensive, gets upset, and throws something in your face that has nothing to do with it. Boom, the argument is set. And before you know it, a meaningless detail turns into a full-blown conflict. How many times has this happened to you? The truth is this: when your emotions control your actions, you become a puppet of your own feelings. When an intense emotion hits, two things happen. First, your body reacts before your mind. Your heart speeds up, your breathing changes, your muscles tense, your instincts push you to act without thinking. Then, your mind follows your body. It creates a story to justify that emotion. You tell yourself, "This is unbearable. They did this on purpose. I can't handle this." And that's when the fire spirals out of control. But don't worry, you have an alternative. When your emotions rise, you lower the temperature. There are 3 techniques that the Stoics and modern psychology recommend. The first is the 10-minute, 10-day, 10-year principle. Ask yourself, will this still matter in 10 minutes? What about in 10 days and in 10 years? You'll see how many things lose their importance instantly. Once you pass this filter, use a perspective shift. Imagine a friend is in your situation. If they were acting like you, what advice would you give them? This will pull you out of the heat of the moment and allow you to see the situation with more clarity. And the third technique, the crown jewel, is the Stoic pause. Before reacting, take a 5-second pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, does this really matter? How would a wise person react in my place? Strong people are not those who don't feel, but those who don't let what they feel control them. Look around you. The people who suffer the most are not the ones with the most problems, but the ones who don't know how to handle what they feel. They let themselves be consumed by anger, frustration, anxiety, and in that internal war, they always lose. On the other hand, the Stoics cultivated calm. not because they were insensitive, but because they understood that a calm mind sees solutions where a disturbed mind only sees chaos. The next time someone provokes you, don't react. Observe your emotion, but don't act from it. When fear tries to paralyze you, breathe and move forward anyway. And if what comes to you is sadness, sadness, what an unpleasant companion. When sadness makes everything seem dark, remember that your emotions are not reality. They are just a temporary perception. Everything will pass. Because at the end of the day, emotions are not the problem. The problem is whether you control them, or they control you. Are you going to keep letting a moment of impulse decide the course of your life? Or will you do what the wisest have always done? Cool your mind and take control. 4. Accept that today could be your last day. Most people live as if they had all the time in the world. They postpone what truly matters, drown in meaningless problems, and go through their days on autopilot. But tell me, if you knew today was your last day, would you live the same way? This is not a depressing thought. It is an awakening, and the Stoics knew it well. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: live each day as if it were your last, without distraction, without apathy, without pretending to be something you are not. Because the moment you truly understand that the end will come, you free yourself from fear, from useless stress, and start focusing on what really matters. Let me tell you a story about someone close to me that completely changed my perspective on life. My friend Matteo was 38 years old and had what most would consider everything in life: a family, a good job, an apartment in the city center. He worked from sunrise to sunset, rushing from one meeting to the next, always chasing the next goal, the next promotion, the next achievement. His life seemed like a success story, but there was a problem. He was never truly present. Each day was a repetition of the last, always thinking about the future, about what came next, about what he would do someday when he had more time. Until, on an ordinary Tuesday, everything changed. Matteo was driving to work when a car ran a red light and crashed into him. In an instant, the world stopped. Distorted sounds, flashing red lights, sirens, and then darkness. When he woke up in the hospital, the first thing he heard was the doctor saying, "You're lucky. If the impact had been just a little stronger, you wouldn't be here." That night, Matteo couldn't sleep. Not because of the pain, but because of the thought that tormented him. What if that had been my last day? Then everything came rushing into his mind. His daughter, his family, his loved ones, all those he claimed to care about, but whom he never really saw. He never had time, or so he thought. Because ironically, he spent his days running around, chasing something. He didn't even know what. More money, more success, more recognition. And in that endless race, he was losing the only thing that truly mattered. And he realized something devastating. He couldn't remember the last time he had truly enjoyed a day. From that moment on, everything changed. Matteo embraced memento mori, the Stoic practice of remembering that the end could come at any moment. Not as something tragic, but as a reminder to live with purpose. He stopped postponing what was important. He started dedicating more time to the people he loved. He dared to do things he had always put off. And for the first time in years, he truly felt alive. Ironic, isn't it? Only when he saw the end of his life so close did he finally begin to live. Science has proven that accepting our mortality makes us more resilient, more present, and happier. A study published in Psychological Science found that people who reflect on their own death make decisions that align more with their values, reduce their stress, and enjoy life more. And psychologist Irvin Yalom put it clearly: the confrontation with death shakes us and pushes us toward a more authentic life. Can't you see? The Stoics and psychology agree. You should not fear the end of life. The only thing you should fear is not truly living. Do you want to know how to start? First, make a list of the things that truly matter in your life. Ask yourself, if today were my last day, what would I wish I had done more? Then, Start doing it. Second, every morning, repeat this Stoic phrase. Today could be my last day. Am I living according to what I truly value? Let this idea guide your decisions, because in the end, my friend, time waits for no one. Not for you, not for me, not for anybody. Tell me, what is that one thing you would never forgive yourself for not seeing, doing, or feeling again? Write it in the comments and commit to going after it, because tomorrow, no one guarantees you will still be here. 5. If life gets tough, thank it. If I told you that everything difficult you've been through is the best thing that ever happened to you, would you believe me? I know. You'd probably smile sarcastically and say something like, "Easy for you to say from the outside." But think about it carefully. Every time life has cornered you, every obstacle, every fall, every hit, weren't those also the moments when you grew the most? Because here's a truth that few are willing to accept. What's easy doesn't make you strong. Comfort teaches you nothing. It's adversity that shapes you, that molds you, that transforms you into someone emotionally strong. The writer Haruki Murakami put it perfectly. When the storm is over, you won't remember how you managed to survive. But one thing is certain. When you come out of it, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storm is all about. Ah, such wise words. Life is not about avoiding the storms, but about learning to walk in the rain. Sometimes with an umbrella and sometimes with your chest bare. Look around you. Think of someone you admire, someone strong, someone who has achieved something great. How do you think they got there? No one becomes resilient by living an easy life. No one becomes strong without first being tested. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't seek a life without problems. They sought a mind prepared to face them. And tell me, what would be the point of this video if you had no difficulties? If life were perfect, you wouldn't need emotional strength. You wouldn't be here. But here you are. Because deep down, you know life is tough. But you also know that inside you, there is a strength waiting to awaken. Think about the gym. Every time you lift a weight, your muscle experiences micro tears. It breaks down, rebuilds, and becomes stronger. My friend, your mind works the same way. Every difficulty is training. Every time life challenges you, it gives you the opportunity to become more resilient, wiser, more powerful. You lost your job? It's your chance to reinvent yourself. You got rejected? It's the lesson that will make you better. You failed at something? It's the test that will force you to find a new strategy. Life isn't punishing you, it's preparing you. When you feel like life is unfair, remember this: everything you now see as a problem could be the reason for your future success. So don't curse your struggles, thank them, and most importantly, change your reaction. Instead of thinking you're a victim and shouting, "Why is this happening to me?" start believing that you can handle anything and say to life, "Thank you, because this will make me stronger." Because in the end, it's not life that destroys or builds you, it's you. And as Sigmund Freud wisely said, "I have been a lucky man. In life, nothing has ever come easy to me." Listen to me. Difficulty is not a punishment. It is the path to an indestructible mind. 6. Less complaints, more action. I'm just not lucky. If things were different, everything would be better. I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't have opportunities. The world is against me. Enough. Can you imagine Marcus Aurelius complaining after every lost battle, cursing his luck after every rebellion in the empire, after every betrayal, after every defeat? Of course not. Impossible to picture. Do you know why? Because if the Stoics had a victim mentality, neither you nor I would admire them today. No one centuries later would read about them. No one would remember them as the most unshakable men in history, because life does not reward those who complain or make excuses. It rewards those who find solutions. And yes, I know complaining doesn't seem that bad. Sometimes it even feels good. But here's the truth. Every time you complain, you reinforce your role as a victim. You keep telling yourself that you can't, that it's impossible. that it's destiny's fault or people's fault or circumstances' fault. And my friend, I hate to say it, but what you repeatedly tell yourself eventually becomes your reality. Epictetus summed it up in one sentence: don't explain your problems, solve them. And let's be clear, the Stoics were not insensitive. It's not that they didn't feel pain, frustration, or anger. They simply understood that wasting energy on complaining was useless. They took responsibility, took control of what was within their power, and let go of what they could not change. Think about two people who lose their jobs. The first person sits down to lament. It's unfair. I didn't deserve this. I don't know what to do. The next day, they call a friend to complain. They've ruined my life. Now I have no income. What will become of me? Weeks later, they are still in the same situation. The second person feels the hit, of course, and the fear. But they act. They update their resume, look for job openings, learn, reinvent themselves, and guess what? A few months later, they find an even better opportunity. What luck, the first person might think. They found a job and I didn't. But let's be honest, do you really think it was luck? Imagine you have a bucket of water and start poking holes in it. Every complaint, every excuse, every lament is another hole. You can keep pouring more water in, but if you keep puncturing it with negativity, you'll never retain anything. Complaints drain energy. They exhaust you. They empty you. They leave you powerless. And worst of all, they solve absolutely nothing. So where's the solution? There's a huge difference between looking at a situation and seeing only obstacles, or looking at it and asking yourself what you can do with it. The focus is yours to choose. The problem isn't falling, it's staying on the ground. The problem isn't making mistakes, it's not learning from them. The problem isn't what happens to you, it's doing nothing about it. So stop repeating the same old complaints. Get up, move forward. Use every difficulty as an opportunity to prove what you're made of. Because in the end, you're either the person who finds excuses, or you're the person who finds the way. And guess what? Once again, the choice is entirely yours. 7. Your time is more valuable than gold. If someone tried to steal your wallet, you would fight to stop them, wouldn't you? Then tell me, why do you allow your time to be stolen without putting up a fight? Listen, a strong mind is one that knows where to invest its energy. And what drains your energy the most isn't hard work or big challenges. It's time wasted on things that don't matter. There was a time when I didn't understand this myself. I gave away my hours as if they were infinite. I said yes to everything, answered pointless calls, replied to irrelevant messages, spent entire afternoons consuming content that added nothing to my life. Days, weeks, years, lost. I remember a moment that woke me up. It was late, I was exhausted, and I checked my phone. I realized I had spent over 3 hours jumping from one app to another without any purpose. 3 hours that would never come back. And then it hit me. If someone had offered to buy 3 hours of my life in exchange for nothing, I would have never sold them. But I had given them away myself. Because that's the trick. You don't realize you're wasting time until it's too late. Imagine holding a handful of sand in your hand. Each grain represents a minute of your life. If you clench your fist tightly, trying to hold on, the sand still slips through your fingers. You can't stop it. You can only decide where to invest it before it runs out. Listen closely. A person with a strong mind does not get dragged down by distractions, pointless worries, or relationships that drain them. People protect their money, their possessions, even their reputation. But their time, they give it away without a second thought. Steve Jobs put it bluntly, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." A mind that wastes time is a weak mind, full of excuses, unnecessary worries, complaints about what it doesn't have instead of focusing on what it can build. But when you learn to protect your time, you become stronger. You stop wasting energy on things you can't change. You stop surrounding yourself with people who drain you. You stop worrying about the past and the future and start acting in the present. And tell me, how many times have you said, "I don't have time," while wasting hours on empty distractions? Because here's the truth. Life is not short, but if you waste it, it will feel short. The coffee you wanted to have with that friend, you postponed it too long, and now you both live in separate worlds. That project you dreamed of starting, you keep putting it off for when you have more time. The opportunities you once had right in front of you, they're gone now because someone else sees them while you hesitated. Time waits for no one. Start treating your time for what it truly is, the most valuable thing you have. Don't waste time on what doesn't bring you peace. If something mentally drains you without adding anything positive, eliminate it. Make a list of what truly matters for your emotional growth, and commit to making it a priority. Learn to say no. Every time you agree to something that doesn't serve you, you are saying no to something that could make you stronger. Because a strong mind knows where to focus. It knows that its time is non-negotiable. It knows that every wasted minute is a minute of strength that is lost. And now tell me, are you going to keep squandering the one thing you will never get back? Or will you start building your life with every second you still have? 8. If it doesn't hurt, it doesn't transform. Do you want to grow? Then accept effort, sacrifice, and discomfort. Look at anyone who has achieved something great in life. An elite athlete, a successful entrepreneur, someone who has overcome a great difficulty. They all have one thing in common. They went through pain. Because here's a truth few want to hear. Real change is never comfortable. It requires sacrifice. It requires discomfort. Imagine a tree at the top of a mountain. The wind hits it every day, bends it, shakes it, pushes it around. But instead of breaking, its roots dig deeper. Its trunk grows stronger. Its branches learn to endure. Now imagine another tree, protected inside a greenhouse. No wind, no sudden changes. It looks strong, until one day it is transplanted outside. The first strong wind rips it from the ground. The same thing happens with your mind. If you never face resistance, you become fragile. Few understood this better than Epictetus. He was born a slave. His master was cruel and took pleasure in mistreating him. One day, he twisted Epictetus's leg with such brutality that he left it permanently useless. Epictetus, instead of screaming or begging, simply said calmly, "If you keep twisting, you will break it." And that's exactly what happened. But the most surprising part isn't what he suffered, it's what he did with his suffering. Over time, he was freed, and instead of lamenting his fate, he turned his pain into wisdom. He became a teacher, a philosopher, a man who taught thousands to master their minds. Now tell me, what excuse do you have for not making yourself stronger? You don't need to be tortured or live in misery to build your character, but you do need to step out of comfort. If you always choose what's easy, you weaken yourself. If you never face challenges, you stagnate. If you avoid everything that makes you uncomfortable, you become fragile, lazy, and complacent. So, like that tree at the top of the mountain, seek the wind, just a little, every day. Wake up earlier and use that time to learn something new. Take the harder path when you have the choice. Walk up the stairs instead of taking the elevator. Accept the project no one else wants. Face the uncomfortable conversation instead of waiting for someone else to bring it up. Step out of your comfort zone daily, even in small ways. Because every time you choose effort over ease, you are building yourself. But it's exhausting, you might think. Why should I suffer? But my friend, discomfort is not suffering. It is the preparation you need for the moments when life will challenge you, without asking if you were ready. If something is difficult, keep going. Resistance is a sign that you are growing. If it hurts, ask yourself, is this destroying me, or is it making me stronger? Not all pain is bad. Sometimes it is simply the price of transformation. Don't run from it. Accept that it's part of the process and keep moving forward. Because, as the Stoics taught us, pain is neither good nor bad. Pain is what you make of it. If you decide it's a curse, it will be. But if you decide it's your teacher, it will be the force that helps you overcome any challenge. So tell me, what discomfort will you face to transform yourself? Dare to write it in the comments as a commitment. Let's support each other and grow together on this journey. 9. Alone, you'll get there faster. Together, you'll go further. You can be the best navigator, the strongest, the most prepared, but if you try to cross an ocean alone on a raft, sooner or later, you will sink. The world sells us the idea of the self-made man, the one who needs no one, the one who can do everything alone. But reality is different, and the Stoics knew it. They didn't speak of self-sufficiency in isolation, but of surrounding yourself with people who strengthen your mind, help sharpen your character, and make you better. Because here's the truth. The people around you can either lift you up or destroy you. Look at the greatest figures in history. None of them got there alone. Marcus Aurelius had Epictetus and the writings of the great philosophers before him. He also had strong allies and his wife by his side. Socrates had disciples who constantly challenged him intellectually. Every great leader has had mentors, allies, and a team. And that's no coincidence. Psychology has proven it time and again. Your environment directly influences your mindset, your behavior, and your results. A study from Harvard University on adult development found that the quality of your relationships is the most determining factor in your well-being and success. Not money, not fame, relationships. Have you ever heard that famous phrase that says you are the average of the 5 people closest to you? At the end of the day, you are a reflection of the people you spend the most time with. Think about this. If you spend your days around people who complain, who lack ambition, who see life through a negative lens, how do you think you'll end up thinking? Exactly. You'll see everything as dark, hopeless, and without direction. But what if you surrounded yourself with the opposite? With bright, energetic, positive people. The kind who challenge you to be better every day, who inspire you, who don't let you settle for less than what you can be. Now that changes everything, and you will change too, for the better. Think logically. If you surround yourself with excuses, all you will see are excuses. If you surround yourself with action, you will get used to acting. If you surround yourself with strong people, you will learn to be strong. Imagine a lit candle. If you place it in a dark room, its light is small, fragile. But if you bring it close to other flames, the fire grows, multiplies, it becomes unstoppable. That's how your mindset works. If you surround yourself with people who ignite your inner fire, you will grow in ways you never imagined. But if you surround yourself with people who only extinguish your light, sooner or later, you will be left in darkness. And I know it's not easy. Sometimes our environment feels like something we can't change, but I promise you, you can. Follow these steps and you'll see the light. First, audit your inner circle. Ask yourself, does this person push me to be better, or do they drag me backward? Then, seek out people who are where you want to be. Learn from them, surround yourself with their mindset. And the final trick, eliminate what drains you. If someone only brings negativity into your life, create distance. You don't have to be harsh, especially if it's someone close to you, but trust me, it's necessary. Because, my friend, you can go through life alone. But those who truly go far, do it with others. Correction, they do it with the right people. 10. Your attention shapes your mind. Imagine that everything you focus on is a seed you plant in your mind. If you only water thoughts of fear, complaints, and worry, your mind will become a withered garden, overrun with weeds. But if you choose to nurture ideas of growth, strength, and learning, you will build a lush, thriving forest full of life. The question is, what are you feeding every day? Because whether you realize it or not, your mind is shaped by what you consume, what you think, and what you choose to focus on. Marcus Aurelius explained it beautifully. The soul takes on the color of its thoughts. What a profound truth. If you spend your entire day surrounded by negative news, meaningless conversations, and empty distractions, do you really expect to feel strong, motivated, and in control of your life? What you watch, what you listen to, what you think about, it all shapes you more than you realize. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine you're sitting in a cafe. Next to you, there are 2 tables. At one, a group of people is complaining about work, the economy, the weather, about how terrible everything is. At the other, a group is sharing ideas, talking about opportunities, motivating each other. If you sit with the first group, how do you think you'll feel when you leave? Drained, anxious, and filled with complaints. But what if you sit with the second group? How do you think your story changes? You'll leave inspired, energized, ready to take action. And here's the key. In life, you get to choose which table you sit at. Imagine a river with two currents. One leads to clarity, strength, and growth. The other drags you toward negativity, confusion, and stagnation. Every day, with every decision, with every thought, you choose which direction you navigate. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Epictetus made it clear, when you waste your attention on meaningless things, you're not just losing time, you're losing a part of your life. Every time you choose to focus on what you can't control, on what drains you, on what only steals your energy, you are shaping a weak, scattered mind, one incapable of withstanding life's challenges. But if you learn to direct your attention toward what truly matters, your mind will become unbreakable. If you want to develop mental strength, start with the basics. Protect your attention as if it were your most valuable resource. Stop consuming useless information. If what you read, watch, or listen to doesn't add value to your life, cut it out. Surround yourself with conversations that uplift you. Distance yourself from pointless negativity, and question every thought. If something is weighing on you, ask yourself, is this helping me, or is it just draining me? Your mind doesn't become strong by accident. It becomes strong with every choice you make about where to focus your attention. So today, I challenge you to something. For the next 24 hours, observe where your attention is going. When you open social media to see your favorite influencer's new yacht, ask yourself if it's adding to your life or draining you. When someone starts complaining next to you, notice how it makes you feel and decide whether it's worth staying in that conversation. When a negative thought arises, question it and replace it with one that makes you stronger. Because where your attention goes, your life follows. So now I ask you, are you going to keep letting your mind be shaped by external forces, or are you going to take control of what you choose to nourish? Training your mind is not optional, it's a necessity. If you don't take control of your thoughts, the world will do it for you. Don't wait any longer. Every day is an opportunity to strengthen your character, challenge your comfort, and build an unbreakable mindset. It's not about avoiding problems, but facing them with intelligence and action. Every choice shapes your mental strength. Every obstacle you overcome, every emotion you master, every distraction you ignore. Because life does not reward those who drift aimlessly. It rewards those who take charge of their own minds. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, I train my mind every day. That way, I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are who made it to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a like so you don't miss out on what's coming next. I also invite you to check out our playlist, which you'll see on the screen. It's packed with ideas, stories, and advice to help you navigate life with more wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep moving forward together. Until next time, take care and keep embracing your inner Stoic.